I worked for a German engineering firm that was acquired by a U.S. company. The new American manager on his first day called a meeting and announced, "To improve efficiency, we're moving to a fire-at-will policy. Underperformers will be let go on the spot." He was genuinely shocked when our German HR head calmly explained that German labor laws made his entire speech illegal and impossible. He thought he could just import American corporate culture like a piece of software. My friend is a scientist at CERN in Switzerland. An American visitor on a tour asked her, "So you're smashing these atoms. But what's the ROI? How much profit has this big tunnel generated this quarter?" My friend tried to explain the concept of fundamental research and expanding human knowledge. The man just shook his head and muttered, "Sounds like a huge waste of taxpayer money. You should be trying to make a product." Dialogue overheard on the bus in London. American teen. "Why do they call it a zebra crossing? Zebras don't even live here." British friend. "It's because of the black and white stripes." American teen. "That's dumb. They should call it a crosswalk like normal people. It's just more efficient. We perfected the language. You guys should catch up." I was in a hostel in Peru, and an American guy was trying to pay for his stay. He handed the owner a US $20 bill. The owner politely pointed to a sign that said, "Peruvian souls only." The American got angry. "Look, it's $1. It's the world's currency. It's better than your money. Just take it and give me change in dollars." He couldn't grasp that his money wasn't legal tender everywhere. A woman I went to college with was convinced that Alaska was a small island that floated somewhere. Near Hawaii? She argued with a geography professor about it. Her proof. That's where they always put it on the map of the United States. She refused to accept that maps use insets for scale, and that Alaska is in fact an enormous peninsula attached to Canada. She thought we were all just messing with her. My cousin married an American and moved to the suburbs of Chicago. She was talking to a neighbor who asked where she was from. My cousin said, "I'm from the Netherlands." The neighbor smiled brightly and replied, "Oh, how wonderful. I just love Peter Pan." She genuinely thought the Netherlands was the fictional Neverland from the children's story. There was no correcting her. I was on an online forum dedicated to classic literature. Someone from India posted a detailed analysis of a Dickens novel. An American user replied, "Your English is very impressive for a foreigner, but you use the word color instead of color. It's a common mistake. You should run your post through a spell checker set to English US to avoid looking uneducated." The sheer arrogance was breathtaking. An American company sent a representative to our office in Stockholm. He arrived in July and was horrified by the midnight sun. He complained to our office manager, "This is a safety hazard. How do you people sleep? You need to install blackout curtains on the entire city. I'm going to have to report these unsafe working conditions to corporate." He thought the 24-hour daylight was a municipal problem that needed fixing. "Excuse me, hi. My watch says it's 4:00 p.m. But the schedule here says the next train is at 16 rungs. Is your clock broken or is the schedule from yesterday?" The station attendant in Paris just sighed and pointed to the 24-hour clock on the wall. The tourist stared at it, then back at his own watch and said, "Well, that's a really confusing way to tell time. You should just use AM and PM. I was working at a vineyard in New Zealand. An American tourist asked me, "Why are your vines all twisted and weird-looking in Napa Valley? The vines are all in perfect, straight rows. It's much more organized. This just looks messy and unprofessional." I had to explain that the gnarled old vines produce the best grapes. But he just saw it as a failure to adhere to American standards of neatness. A new hire at my tech company in Dublin, fresh from California, tried to schedule a team-building day on St. Patrick's Day. When we all told him that was a national holiday and everything would be closed, he said, "Perfect. The office will be empty, so we'll have it all to ourselves. It's just a drinking holiday, right? We can be productive instead." He couldn't understand that a national holiday meant you don't work. My aunt, a nurse in Toronto, had to treat an American who had come up for a fishing trip. When she told him there would be no charge for his emergency stitches, he got very suspicious. "Okay, what's the catch?" Is this some kind of socialist trick where you sign me up for a database? I'm a Dime, not a communist. I want to pay for my own treatment like a real patriot. He demanded to be billed. Overheard in a Tokyo subway station, American one? I don't get it. I keep bowing to people, but they just look at me weird. American, too. I know. I think we're doing it wrong. Maybe you have to say konnichiwa at the same time for it to work. They were treating a sign of respect, like it was a video game combo move they needed to unlock, bowing deeply and awkwardly to every single person who walked by. I was part of a student exchange in South Korea. An American student in our group saw a bunch of people protesting peacefully in a public square. He turned to our Korean guide and said, "Whoa, you should call the cops. In America, if people gather like this, they get arrested for loitering or unlawful assembly. This looks really dangerous." The idea of freedom of assembly being a normal, respected right was completely foreign to him. A guy on my flight to Cairo was reading a travel guide. He turned to his wife and said, "It says here the official language is Arabic. Crap. I thought they'd all speak Egyptian, you know, with the hieroglyphics and stuff. How are we supposed to talk to anyone now?" He seemed to believe that the ancient pictorial language was still in common daily use. I was working in IT support for a global company. An American employee in the Texas office submitted a ticket. "My computer is broken. It keeps changing the date to the wrong format. I fix it to 10/12/2025, and the next day it says 13/10/2025, which isn't even a real date." I had to remotely log in and show him the system setting was on English UK, and explain the DDMMY format. He asked if we could change the whole company's system to the correct American way. An American tourist at a bullfight in Madrid stood up and shouted, "This is so cruel. Someone should give the bull a weapon, so it's a fair fight." While the sentiment might seem noble, he completely missed the centuries of cultural tradition he was witnessing. He then started chanting, "USA, USA," as if that would somehow change the outcome or convince the matador to arm the bull. My friend was a U.S. Marine stationed in Okinawa. He said one of his fellow Marines got into an argument with a local shopkeeper because the shopkeeper wouldn't accept his payment. The Marine kept yelling, "This is the currency of the winning side. We won the war. You have to take it." He was trying to pay with a special edition Star Wars commemorative coin he got from a cereal box. At a restaurant in a small Italian village, an American family was getting frustrated. The father called the waiter over and said, "We've been here for almost 2 hours. In the States, a meal takes 45 minutes tops. What's the holdup? Don't you guys understand the concept of customer turnover?" The waiter, confused, replied, "Sir, in Italy, a meal is an event to be enjoyed, not a task to be completed. I was in a history museum in Vietnam. An American was looking at an exhibit about the Vietnam War. He loudly told his son, 'See, this is where we came and taught them about democracy. It was a tough fight, but we won and made them free.' The local museum guide standing nearby looked like he was going to have a stroke. The American's confidence in his completely wrong version of history was staggering. An American influencer was filming a video at a sacred temple in Thailand. She was wearing a bikini and trying to do a seductive dance in front of a statue of Buddha. When a monk politely asked her to be more respectful and cover up, she got indignant. "This is my brand. I'm giving you free exposure. You should be thanking me for bringing my followers to your culture." She genuinely saw no issue. Dialogue between 2 American students in a cafe in Helsinki, Finland. "It's so weird here. Everyone is so quiet and keeps to themselves." "I know, right? It's like they're all depressed. We should go around and teach them how to be more outgoing and friendly. You know, just start conversations with strangers on the bus. They'd probably love it. They just don't know how." I was working on a cruise ship. An American passenger came to the guest services desk and asked if the captain could please turn off the waves because she was feeling seasick. She thought the ship's movement was an artificial feature like in a theme park ride, and that we could simply switch it to a calmer setting. She was dead serious. An American tourist in the Australian outback asked our guide, "So, what language do the Aboriginals speak?" Is it like a simpler version of English? The guide explained that there are hundreds of distinct Aboriginal languages, each complex and ancient. The tourist scoffed. Well, that's horribly inefficient. Why don't they all just agree on one? Or better yet, just learn English. It would make things so much easier for everyone. My company sent me to our office in India for a project. An American colleague who was also there refused to eat any of the local food. His reasoning: I don't trust anything that I can't pronounce. If it's not a burger, a steak, or a hot dog, it's probably poisonous. I'm sticking to the Pringles I brought in my suitcase. It's just safer to eat American. At a Christmas market in Nuremberg, Germany, I heard an American complaining to his wife, "This is a total rip-off. All this stuff looks handmade. Where are the real brands? I haven't seen a single Disney or Coca-Cola ornament. It's like they don't even understand the commercial spirit of Christmas. It's all so rustic and old-fashioned." I was at a beautiful, secluded beach in Greece. An American family arrived, set up a massive Bluetooth speaker, and started blasting pop music. When a few Europeans politely asked if they could turn it down, the father replied, "This is a public beach, and I have a right to listen to my music. This is what freedom sounds like. You guys should try it sometime instead of being so uptight." An American exchange student in my politics class in France insisted that the French Revolution was a failed attempt to copy the American Revolution. He argued that if they had just followed the U.S. Constitution exactly, they wouldn't have had all that messy beheading stuff and Napoleon. It's because they tried to add their own weird French ideas that it all went wrong. I was on a safari in Kenya. A tourist from Texas asked the guide if he could get out of the jeep to take a selfie with a lion. We saw in the distance. The guide, horrified, told him, "Absolutely not." The Texan replied, Don't worry. I'm a licensed gun owner in the state of Texas. I can handle myself. The Second Amendment protects my right to self-defense, even against lions." He could not comprehend that U.S. law did not apply to the animals of the Masai Mara. A woman came into the Canadian pharmacy where I work and asked for antibiotics. I told her she'd need a prescription from a doctor. She slammed her fist on the counter. "This is ridiculous, In America, I can just buy fish antibiotics from the pet store and cure myself. It's my constitutional right to self-medicate. Your socialist health care is taking away my freedom to choose my own medicine." I was working the customer service line for a UK-based clothing website. A woman from California called absolutely furious. "Your checkout form is broken," she yelled. I'm trying to enter my address, but there's no state drop-down menu, and it keeps asking for a county, which we don't have, and the zip code field is broken, too. I had to patiently explain that she was on the UK site, and that our address fields were for UK addresses. She demanded I fix the website to include American states because the internet is American. So all websites should work for Americans first. My friend is a pharmacist in Spain. An American tourist came in asking for Advil. My friend offered him a box of generic ibuprofen. Explaining it was the exact same active ingredient, the American refused. "No, I need the brand name Advil. The one from the commercials. It works better." My friend tried to explain that direct-to-consumer drug advertising is illegal in Spain, and that the brand name doesn't change the chemical. The tourist accused him of pushing cheap socialist medicine, and stormed out to find a real pharmacy. An American student moved into my apartment building in Rome. The first night, she plugged her American hair dryer into the wall using a cheap adapter. There was a loud pop, a flash of light, and the power went out on our entire floor. She then sent a message to the building's group chat, complaining about the ancient faulty wiring, and demanding the landlord pay to replace her very expensive appliance. She had absolutely no concept of voltage differences, and was convinced the building's 235 electricity was defective for not being 120 V. At the Berlin Wall Memorial, I overheard an American father confidently explaining the history to his son, and then President Reagan gave his famous speech right here. And the very next day, everyone got so inspired that they tore the wall down. He basically ended the Cold War all by himself with that one speech. A German man nearby politely tried to add that it was a complex process driven by months of mass protests by East Germans. The American just patted his son's shoulder and said, "See, Reagan gave them the courage to do it. It was an American idea." A business associate of mine from the US was visiting our office in Tokyo. Our Japanese manager presented him with a beautifully wrapped gift. The American immediately tore the paper off, held up the gift, and said, "Wow, neat. Thanks." The room went awkwardly silent. I later had to explain to him that in Japan it's customary to open gifts in private to avoid any potential embarrassment. He just shrugged and said, "That's so inefficient. How are they supposed to know if you actually like it?" Seems backward to me. I was watching a critical World Cup match in a pub in Dublin, and the atmosphere was electric. An American tourist sat down next to me and asked what the score was. I told him it was 1-0 in the 80th minute. He watched for a few minutes, then said loudly, "This is so boring. Why doesn't anyone score? And they should be able to use their hands. It would be a much faster, higher-scoring game if they just played it the right way. Like American football." He was giving genuine strategic advice, as if he were improving the most popular sport on the planet.